The Ukrainian language law became obscured by myths and bogeyman stories from the moment it was registered in the Ukrainian parliament. We have taken a look at the 5 most widespread myths created by Russia propaganda to check whether they are true or not. The main one is that the law bans the Russian language. So the first myth, Russian speakers will be detained by language inspectors on the streets. This is false. The article on language inspection was taken out of the law before the first reading to avoid any speculation on the issue.
The law doesn't concern private communication. You can speak any language. There is no term language inspector in the law. Neither there is such function.
The law was drafted using the experience of France and the Baltic states. Estonia has had language inspectors since 1991, and this does not distress anyone.
The myth that the law will meddle with someone's personal life and almost check which language you use in your bedroom is absolutely not true. The truth is that the law institutionalizes the use of Ukrainian as the state language in very specific spheres, such as work of government, the media, the service industry, and education.
A half year after the law comes into force, the position of Commissioner on the Protection of the State Language will be introduced. He will respond to complaints of the law being violated. Aside from that, he will be inspecting whether Ukrainian government officials know the Ukrainian language.
Our country is Ukraine. Our government officials are Ukrainian. Our state language is Ukrainian. Why would not they know Ukrainian? It is somewhat shameful to work for the government and to be unable to speak the state language of the country where you live. This country provides for you.
The second myth is that police and hospital employees will not be allowed to speak Russian. This is false. Police officers will talk to a person who does not know Ukrainian in a language that is understandable for both parties, or use the services of a translator.
If you ask someone for help in the street, it does not mean the police will not help you just because you do not know the Ukrainian language. For the doctor, the main task is to help a patient. The essence of this article of the law is that no one can force a patient not to speak Ukrainian if the patient wants to speak Ukrainian.
There is such a thing as dignity and self-identification. If a person does not understand that no laws, no presence, be it new or old, can force that in your mind, you have to understand what makes you different from others in this world and who are you.
Third myth, not knowing the Ukrainian language is a criminal offense. Absolutely not. For breaking or not adhering to the language law, an administrative punishment is prescribed.
These provisions of the law will become active only 3 years after the law comes into force. They will apply mainly to legal entities and high-ranking government officials.
For breaking the law, for example, in official paperwork, the maximum fine is $260. In the cultural sphere, education and advertising, $195. For print medium, the maximum fine is $325.
No one will ever prohibit me to talk to my kids in other languages. I will teach them the languages I know myself. But you have to respect the country you live in. It is simple. There's nothing complicated about it.
Fourth myth, all media have to be exclusively in Ukrainian. Not entirely. For example, internet publications will have the right to publish materials in 2 or more languages, but only if there is also a Ukrainian version.
Newspapers can be published in Ukrainian language and the languages of the EU. If you want to print the newspaper in any other language, you need to print at least a few copies in Ukrainian.
Access to any content on the internet, be it on Facebook or YouTube, is unrestricted.
TV and radio finally have Ukrainian language content. God forbid someone change that. Everything will revert to how it was before. It is not a secret that a lot of Russian shows are filmed here in Ukraine. If you remove language quotas from the television, it will be a disaster.
Детям запретят учиться на языках национальных меньшинств.
Fifth myth. Children will be banned from studying the languages of ethnic minorities. False. At present, ethnic minorities can study in their own language and in the Ukrainian language. When the law comes into full force, the main language of education will be Ukrainian, but also there will be special classes in the languages of minorities.
We delayed the implementation of this article until 2023, since it was recommended by the Venice Commission. This is because we have to train teachers who will be teaching in schools for ethnic minorities.
For all who wish to learn or improve their Ukrainian language, the Ministry of Education will open free language courses. They will be organized in all Ukrainian cities. Reported by Olga Volinets, UATV.